Hey there, finance friends. Welcome back. So, in this module on cash management, we've started off with the big picture, why it's important, and we've linked the idea of money in and money out, your net cash flow. We've linked that to the balance between your current self and your future self. We've linked it to the idea of growing your net worth over time. We did a little mini dive into income and the jump from gross to net income. And in a previous video, we then said, with that net income, where does it go to? And we started to think that it's probably going to be better and more productive for us instead of just putting all of our money in our checking account and living out of that we engage in categorized allocation where we separate our money into different buckets based on obligations, luxuries, and savings and investment. We also had a little bit of an idea about paying yourself first, that the best way to approach your money, the best way to architect your financial life is for you to earn it, pay yourself first by investing and saving automatically, and then spending what's left. This makes your life much less stressful. You don't have to sweat every single, different spending thing because you say, you know what, it's okay. I can buy this happily, guilt-free, because I know that I've already put aside my money for future me. Okay? So these are all some really important ideas. I've given you a lot of raw material. I want you to absorb that raw material, but I also want you to start thinking about how you're going to implement it yourself. Okay? How are you going to set up your categories and how will you set up accounts and how can you make this system work for you? Because we're no longer just students of this game. We're generals deploying our dollars strategically. We're architects building a system. Okay? In this video, I want to talk about one really important thing that I want you to commit to building as part of your architecture. And this is your emergency fund. Okay. An emergency fund is basically a stash of cash that you have available for when life throws you a curveball. Because let's be honest, my friends, life is going to throw you a curveball every now and again. Okay. You might get unemployed and you might get laid off and be unemployed. You might have a car repair you have to take care of. You may have, one day you own a home and your hot water heater might blow and it floods your basement. You got to fix that. Okay. You might get ill or have a sick kid or a sick pet. Okay. Life can throw you for a loop. It is critical that you have this emergency stash of cash, this emergency fund, what I call the oh shit fund. So that if something bad in life happens and you say, oh shit, this isn't good, you say, it's okay. I've got money ready for this. I'm prepared. Okay. Your emergency fund is all about preparation. Okay. Let's think about emergency funds from a systems lens. Let's go back to our system and let's think about it. Let's think first of all about the idea of wanting to run net cash flow positive, which implies that your money in is greater than your money out. And let's also think about what we just learned in the last video. You're going to have gross income. That's going to become net income. And that net income can be deployed to obligations, to luxuries, and to savings and investment. In other words, future you. Okay. Imagine that things are going well. Imagine that, you're living a good life. Imagine that you've got no debt or manageable debt. But imagine that you don't have an emergency fund. Okay. Imagine that you do not have an emergency fund. So your life's going well. You know, you've led yourself to believe that things are under control, and then something happens. Maybe you get laid off, you get sick, you get an fender bender, you got to fix a blown transmission or a broken water heater, a pet gets sick, something happens, and life throws you a curveball. And now all of a sudden, you've got either some large unexpected, I'm sorry, you've got some large unexpected expenses, or maybe you have a severe drop in income. If you don't have an emergency fund and one of these two things happens, you're going to be hurting. Because if one of those two things happens, if you don't have an emergency fund, the only two ways to get out of that situation is to sell off some of your investment assets, which is probably going to imply losing some money or at least losing the future growth opportunity. Not good. Or if you don't sell assets, or maybe you don't even have much assets, taking on debt, saying, oh shit, I this thing happened. I've got no money. And you whip out the plastic and you charge. Well, we know that this is dangerous because we learned in our time value lectures that interest compounds. And when it's your money, it compounds in your favor. That's good. But when it's not your money, when it's debt that you've borrowed, it compounds against you. Oh boy, not good. Because we know what can happen there. We can have a vicious feedback loop debt cycle. You have to take on debt. Therefore, you have to pay more interest. Therefore, the amount of leftover income that you have falls. And because it falls, you have to then take on even more debt to make ends meet. Well, there we go. It's a feedback loop, but this one ain't going to help you. It's going to really, really punish you. And now you've got even more debt. And therefore, you have to pay more interest per month, which means that you have less of your money left over for your obligations and your luxuries and for future you. So now you have to balance out by taking on more debt. And now you see what happens. This feedback loop continues. And if you're not careful, you know the power of TBM, right? You know the power of time and interest. If you're not careful, eventually this bottom feedback loop can get so big that it's unmanageable. To take that feedback loop that we just built right here and to bring it up here, we learn that obligations include your debt payment. Well, I hope you can put it together now through a systems lens. You thought you were doing fine. You were playing the game right. You were spending responsibly, but you didn't have any savings. You didn't have that emergency fund. You didn't have that hidden stash of oh shit money that you could draw on in case of an emergency. The emergency happened. It caught you off guard. And now you're in a debt cycle because you had to take on debt, borrow money to cover your issue. Well, debt payments increase your obligations. And now even more of your income is going to go to here, leaving less money for the beautiful, fun things in life and leaving no money for future you. We want to avoid this. The only way to avoid this is right now, right here, today, you need to make a commitment to building, and we'll call it to build and fill an emergency fund. Right here today, make the commitment. I am not going to get caught off guard. I am going to prepare for the inevitable curveballs that life will throw me. I am going to commit to building and to filling up an emergency fund. Okay? Let's talk about this. First question, where should this be? Well, your emergency fund should basically be a savings account. It should be a savings account. It should be a savings account in a different bank than your regular checking account. You want it to be separate because you want to remove the temptation to say, well, I'll just dip off it now because there's a sale at my favorite store. Or, well, all my friends are going to go to Vegas and I kind of want to go. So I'll just transfer the money from my emergency fund to my checking account and I promise I'll pay it back later. You won't. You know you won't. We're humans. We're flawed. So you're going to want to set this emergency account up as a savings account. You want it to be at a different bank. And I would strongly advise that you consider it in an HYSA. An HYSA is a high yield savings account. These are basically savings accounts that are offered at online banks. I like this and I recommend it to you because number one, these online banks, they're just a little bit distant. You can still get the money within a day or so if you need it. You can transfer the money over when you need it. But you're going to eliminate the ability to just immediately transfer money from your emergency fund to your primary checking if they're at the same bank. Number two, if you have a savings account right now with Bank of America or Wells Fargo or Chase or any big bank, you're probably getting crappy low interest rates. HYSA accounts, high yield savings accounts, typically pay much higher interest rates than what we're going to call traditional accounts. If you're going to have this money in the bucket for the rainy day, you might as well earn as much interest income as you can on it. So number one, I recommend that you set up your emergency fund as a savings account, ideally an HYSA at an online bank separate from your primary checking account. How much money should be in it? The general rule of thumb, you should commit to having 3 to 6 months of your spending. You need to start tracking how much money you spend and getting a sense of how much money do you need to spend every month to get by. Like, what's your essential spending? Once you have an idea of your essential spending number, that would be, going back to an earlier map, the spending that you need to handle, your life. Once you have this idea of what your essential spending level is, multiply that by 3 if you're a bit more of a risk taker, or by 6 if you're more conservative. As a little hint, I actually prefer 9 months. I like to be really well protected, but whatever it is, commit to 3 to 6 months. So now you know how much money you need. Now you know where it's going to go. And then number 3, you start. And you start going back to an earlier map right here. You have gross income and you're going to have some pulled out. You're going to have net income left over. We're going to practice pay yourself first. You begin to fund your emergency account by automating a transfer from your checking account to your emergency fund. So start. You're going to start, you're an architect, you're going to link your primary checking account to your high yield savings emergency fund. You're going to set up, once you've linked it, an automatic monthly transfer. You're not going to rely on your memory. You're not going to do it when you say, oh, that's right, I got to do it. You're not going to do it when you have some money finally left over. No, 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 no. You're going to pay yourself first. You're going to save money first. You're going to automate this system so that every month a certain amount of money gets transferred from your checking account to your emergency fund. Now, if you're kind of flush with cash, I would suggest that you set a goal of fully funding your emergency account within 1 year. So that means, let's say that you decide, okay, I need, I don't know, I'll make the math easy. I need $12,000 in my emergency account. I want $12,000 of money there. 12,000 divided by 12, that tells you I have to save. I have to transfer $1,000 a month from my checking account when my income gets deposited to here. If you get paid twice a month, I got to transfer $500 every paycheck. If you can do that, do it. I promise you, you'll feel an immediate sense of accomplishment and an immediate sense of freedom. Just a little bit less stress, knowing I'm building up resiliency. Now, you might be saying, Eric, look, I don't make a lot of money. I can't put $1,000 a month. That's okay. Put something. Pick an amount that you can safely put in there. Can you put $200 a month? Do it. 100 a month? Do it. If you say, Eric, I'm operating on fumes, I barely get by right now. Can you put $10 per paycheck? It doesn't matter how much you put in. I mean, it eventually does. But in the meantime, right here, right now, the goal is to build habit. The goal is to build awareness. The goal is to generate momentum. If you say, Eric, I can only put $10 per paycheck into my emergency fund, that's fine. That's $20 a month. That's $240 a year. You're closer than you were before. And more to the point, you're building habit, you're building momentum, you're taking life seriously. Okay? So, what are we going to do? You're going to build and fill this emergency fund. You're going to look for an online high yield savings bank. You're going to set that account up and link it to your checking account. And then you're going to set a goal of how much you want in there within a year. And then you're going to start. Set up auto transfers. Do it once, and then you never have to think about it again. And your life is great. And over time, you won't even notice it anymore. You'll just learn to live off the slightly lower income that you have after sending the money out. You'll adjust. And once you do that, now you're building up the awareness and the habit of balancing future you and current you, of balancing your obligations and your luxuries with your savings and investment goals. Okay? I want to conclude this lecture with one real quick thing. We said that ultimately you're going to develop a system where money comes in and it goes to certain things first, and then you get it as net income. That net income goes to your obligations, your luxuries, and your savings. At the end of the day, all this is about achieving goals. You want to live in a certain place. You want to drive a certain car. You want to have a certain level of health. You want a certain level of activity. You're going to have goals. All of these things here, the movement of money through categorized allocation is just putting money where you need it to satisfy your goals. I really want you to focus on saving through your emergency fund as an immediate goal. Okay. Shouldn't be your only goal, but I really think that you'll be in a better spot in a year, both financially and up here in terms of your awareness. If you say, okay, I've got a lot of goals, some for current me, but one of my new goals is I'm going to have that emergency fund, that oh shit money, and I'm going to start putting a little bit in every month so I can build up resilience. Okay? So take action, be smart. Life's going to throw you a curveball. Be ready for it, okay? Take this emergency fund seriously. Figure out where you want to set it up. Set it up. Set your goal and then start transferring and automating, okay? Good luck, and I'll see you in the next video.